Made an M off a daily fantasy. His number too high, then I'm probably fading him. He been on the road, he gon' eat up my salary. I hit a buy, he gon' lie before lock. Play back to back, then I probably won't pick on the DFS bachelor. Good as it gets. Bit a few liners and hit me a leg. He had a good game, but that might be a trick. Log in the Slack so I know who to pick. Sharing our liners, we all gon' get rich. New to this game, you should come to the pad. You might want some cash and get a good laugh. DFS sports, we gon' run up a bag. He heard every game and it's making me mad. You buying your lineups, I think you a cheater. DFS bachelor, he the new leader. Yeah.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Bachelor Pad. I, of course, am your aging and getting uglier by the day host, the DFS Bachelor, and we are joined by our League of Legends Supermind. Of course, what would be the point of doing these without him? Our boy Mike at League of Items. How you doing this morning, brother?
I had no idea how you were going to finish your first sentence. I thought you were going to say the wrong name for yourself. That was kind of scary.
It happens. You know, getting old sucks, man. It happens. There's so much going on, graduations and family visiting. Jesus, I'm telling you, sometimes the life of a single parent will make you even crazier. You're cooking dinner at 9:30 at night. You feel horrible. Well, you know. I made New York strip, though, so my son was grateful, you know. He was grateful. I've been using the Hell's Kitchen cookbook a lot, so the food is delicious if you just follow Gordon Ramsay's recipe. That's all you have to do.
Smart. It's always smart to follow the advice of people who know more than you about something.
Absolutely.
Always the way to go.
And if you look hard enough, you'll find someone who knows more about you in absolutely everything, no matter what you believe. So it's always good to have an open mind and take that advice. We could probably use a lot of that right now with the way the world is going. And I suppose before we get in, I hope everyone's doing well. I know the world is crazy right now. There's all this shit going on. So I hope everyone is healthy, happy, safe, real. I truly do. So I hope all that is going as well as it possibly can for everyone. So we had a good night last night with our 2-game slate. I think our information was pretty much right on.
Yes.
It pretty much went according to plan, besides maybe that first game where EDG beat the brakes off of World Elite, but they were able to bounce back. We have another 2-game slate tonight. We talked about that yesterday. There's going to be a lot of these 2-gamers until LCK joins the fray here in a couple of weeks. I believe, was it the 22nd? Is that right? Or is it the 17th? I can't remember which day it is.
I forget,
but it's around 2 weeks, and then we'll probably see some bigger slates. I know the Brazilian slate has a 4-game slate, and Mike's going to be...
LCK is 17, yeah.
The 17th, and Mike's going to be covering, if I remember right, like you said, the Brazilian slate later on your channel. Probably. Remember, you can find Mike's channel. There's a link to that in the video description below. Be sure to check that out. Would really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate all of that. Maybe say something nice. That helps us more than you know. I think that's everything. Also, I know we're going to try to get some Sportsbook SBR prediction videos next week for League of Legends.
Yep.
I have a busy schedule, so I'm not sure how many of those I can make next week. It's kind of a crazy week for me.
Sure.
But we'll see what we can get done. Be sure to check out sbrsportsbookreview.com. You'll see yours truly covering the NFL all season long. Mike's writing articles over there. If you're just all sorts of stuff. So check it all out. And I guess I'll be done rambling here with the introduction. 4 minutes in. So 2-game slate tonight. Cheers to you all, by the way. I truly do hope you're all safe. You know, I should have said that yesterday.
Cheers.
It's on my mind quite a bit. I know how the world right now is just an insane place. So 2-game slate. We get to bet against Victory 5. We're going to get into that here. It's the first game because this might actually, it's not like they're playing one of the worst teams in the league according to their spring splits. So it could be a little bit of an opportunity there. And then we have RNG and OMG. As usual, follow us on Twitter at DFS Bachelor, at League of Items. Starting lineups have already been announced. We have them up on our Twitter page. Be sure to scroll through. I try to do a reminder late at night before they start, before I go to bed. I retweet it out one more time just to kind of refresh the brain. And these teams do look a little different. There's some different players on these teams, so They do look a little bit different. So our first game, Victory 5 and Dominus Esports. Dominus Esports is a minus 220 favorite right now. That number has actually been going down, which is interesting.
Yep.
look, Victory 5 in the spring split, they played something like, what was it, 11 matches or 10 matches, 31 games. In those matches, best of threes, they won one game. One game out of the entire split. Not a match, one game. I'm just, until they prove me wrong, I'm going to be all over Dominus Esports. They did play April 10th. Dominus won that match 2-0 in relatively easy fashion as well. I don't see anything on Victory 5 that makes me think they've gotten exponentially better. Maybe the pride factor because they went winless last year, so they come out balls to the wall. And like you kind of said before the show, I'll let you touch on that. This probably is Victory 5's best chance at winning. Maybe when they play LNG might be another opportunity. But they're not very good. They're just not very good.
Yeah, so when I first saw this line, it was at plus 215 for Victory 5. And I think at plus 215, like, I have a video coming out today that has some highlights about yesterday, and then it has, like, looking forward to the bets for today and, like, Draftkings and all that kind of stuff. And I explain that I think that Dominus will win the match, but I think that V5 at plus 215 is a pretty good bet. Like, there is some value there, because I don't think that you can have the second worst team be a 70-something% favorite against the actual worst team in the league.
Sure.
The other thing is, I think that on DraftKings specifically, there are a lot of people who are afraid of V5 subbing out players. So the ownership on Dominus is going to be out of control. Not only do you have a team that gives up a ton of points in V5, not only do you have a team that has all the narratives against them and, like, they were horrible in the spring split, they also have sub risks. So, like, how do you roster V5 players and feel good about it? The only scenario really that you can justify picking V5 players is if you think that V5 will win the first game and then win the second game. Because if they win those two games, the chances of substituting is really low. So you basically have to construct your lineups hoping that they don't make a substitution.
Right. It's tough. The only way I'm playing V5 is kind of like I talked about with LNG last night, which I think is the okay way to go. Maybe put a quarter on it. Maybe play a 10-cent satellite into something. I'm not willing to put a substantial amount of money on DraftKings towards a V5 lineup. And so it gives you kind of a way to hedge, and they're going to be so low owned. V5 is going to be very, very low owned for good reason. So it might help you if for some reason they do win and it ruins your higher dollar tournaments or cash games or winner take alls. Maybe the victory from the lower one would sort of offset your losses. But for me, until I see otherwise, I just have zero interest in Victory 5. Just zero. One question I do have for you, new AD carry this year for Dominus. His name is Helper. Something we need to know about him, because I do have a ton of him tonight.
Yeah, I am bringing up his page again to try to remember where he's from.
Right.
So it looks like he was on, like, the academy team last split, and that's never, like, a great sign, because this guy has been on teams as long ago as 2015. So it's not like he's some up-and-coming player.
Sure.
He could still be like 20, 22, 23 years old, but by this point in most people's careers, they are like a known quantity. So just the fact that I don't remember hearing about him ever, just doesn't give me much confidence in him.
Yeah.
Compared to, like, the top-end AD carries, but in a match against Sam D from V5, he was also an academy AD carry last split. So it should be relatively similar. And if you have two similarly talented players and one player is on a better team, he should score more.
Bingo.
In the long run. So that's basically it.
The one thing I would say about V5 DMO, if you're doing the double favorites, which I'm all about today, Dominus and RNG, when you are doing your lineup constructions, you got to get a little bit cute, and the one thing that gives me pause is when you're doing one way that you make a Dominus RNG stack, you end up with 0 salary left over. And if that lineup ends up being the optimal lineup, you can rest assured you're going to tie with quite a few people, even casual fans who know nothing about it, because people will tend to use all of their salary. That's what casual fans do. So even having a little bit of salary left on the table, especially in a 2-game slate, definitely helps differentiate you. And, I have that lineup with 0 salary left over. I'm hoping that's not the optimal one. I still hope it cashes, but I would prefer one that even has 100 left over, just so that probably will differentiate you from several people. That'd be the one thing I'd say there.
Yeah, so before we move on away from Victory 5...
Should we talk about the starters too, since it is kind of interesting?
Yeah, so for V5, it's Bew, Weiwei, Mole, Sam D, and PP God. Do not adjust your screen or your or your headphones. That is actually his name. His name is PP God.
That's the worst.
I don't know why it's PP God or what it means to him.
That's uncomfortable.
But everyone on Twitter is like freaking out about PP God. So, like, an incredible name. Like, if V5 wins for the first time in like a year, or the first time this year, and it's because of PP God, like, just imagine like the narratives that are going to be coming out of this. Like, that's awesome. So for V5, Bew, Weiwei, and Sam D are all coming from Sunning, either like as a part of their academy team or like a substitute position. So that's pretty interesting. Mole is a player that I like. He can play top lane, mid lane, and AD carry. He's played all 3 positions. But when he plays AD carry, he plays like mid laners, but just brings him to the bot lane. Sure. So I like Bew. I like Mole. Bew, Wei, and Sam D are all interesting because they're coming over from the same team and same academy. So they should have some familiarity. So you don't have this situation where you're going to have like a brand new team with no one who knows each other.
Right.
And it's pretty easy to pick up League of Legends with a new team because it's the same game for everyone.
Right.
So I would say that makes me a little more interested in V5 than I was initially. For DMO, it's Natural, Xiaopeng, Twila, Helper, and Mitsuki. So Natural was their last split. Xiaopeng was their last split. Twila name changed. He was Xiaowei, I think.
Oh, okay. I was wondering where the hell.
A lot of players, DFS players, preferred Xiaowei over Xie, but I'm pretty sure Xie is just a better player. It's just like a lot of DFS people saw a good game from Xiaowei and just like, he's better. So,
Sure.
And then Helper, like I said, he's been around for a long time. I've never really heard of him, so that's not a good sign. Mm-hmm. And then Mitsuki, I have no idea who that guy is.
Right. So
if you're taking 3 academy players and one of the players from the worst team last split against 4 supposed veterans at least, then I think Dominus is a good favorite tonight, but the line movement is kind of weird.
I think it might just be because of the new roster. So they're like, well, they can't be as bad as last year because they're starting some new players. And just in terms of a stats thing, V5 gave up the most fantasy points at nearly every single position last year. Most fantasy points to the bot lane, most fantasy points to the mid lane, most fantasy points to the jungler. And here at the support, they gave up also the most fantasy points to the support. So, I mean, that gives you an idea of how fucking bad they were, Yeah. They just were.
Yeah.
It's
yeah. The other thing about the V5 line movement is that, like, I consider myself a system better where I only bet when there's like certain conditions that are met. So, like yesterday, I liked World Elite because I thought that they should be the favorites,
right?
And they were the underdog. So it's like, okay, well, that's like 20 points of value. Of course, I'm going to bet on that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have something like V5 Dominus. For someone like myself who believes that every individual match in League of Legends at worst can be like 70-30, like right around 70-30, that line at 215 is right around that number. Mm-hmm. So you are kind of in an accurate spot for what public perception is. But now that it's getting driven away from that, there must be a few people out there who are also system bettors and think that that number's closer. Mm-hmm. So maybe they just think like a real match should be between the second to last team and the last team should be 60-40 or 55-45 or something like that.
Right. Yeah, completely agree. I think that's everything on that game. Let's go to our second game. And that's Oh My God Gaming and Royal Never Give Up. OMG, RNG. These two teams did play way back on March 11th. That's, if you all remember, that's the day before the sports world died. That's the day before Rudy Gobert. RNG won that matchup 2-1. I like RNG a lot right now. They're a minus 160 favorite on Bovada. But if I'm playing, for me personally, if I'm going to stack an underdog and have exposure to that, it would be OMG. I guess they would have a closer, in my opinion, they have a better shot at beating RNG. But there's no dispute that the best team on the slate tonight is RNG.
Yeah,
I like RNG quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, so in terms of like real life ability, I think RNG is definitely the best team tomorrow. It doesn't mean that they're going to definitely win, but like that's how you should be making your bets. Is like, oh, this team is better than that team. I'm going to make a bet. At least, like if that's the only thought process that you have, like I can forgive you for that.
Right.
So it's like RNG against OMG. We have the starting lineups. So OMG is Allies, Hacker, Icon, SMLZ, and Cold. Allies was from V5 last split. He actually looked okay in a couple of their games. He would like play Renekton or Aatrox, something like that, and just like go even in lane. Maybe he gets a kill. Maybe they get like a successful gank off, but they just can't continue that throughout an entire game on V5 last year or last split. So Hacker is not a carry jungler. Hacker is not the kind of jungler that I like to play on this map. So I want to stay away from him if I can. Icon, he's a decent mid laner. He's like a league average mid laner, but he's nothing special. I don't think he's as good as Xiaohu, like not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah, and then SMLZ and Cold in the bot lane. I think that they're relatively consistent.
SMLZ and Betty, right?
Well, OMG's bot lane is SMLZ plus Cold.
Oh, so they don't even have Cold listed on DraftKings.
Well, he's the support.
Oh, I got you.
I'm just saying, like their bot lane duo is SMLZ and Cold. So SMLZ and Cold are relatively consistent. If they win, they will look good. SMLZ, even in a loss, could theoretically have one really good game, like what we saw in the EDG matchup.
Sure.
But I do like Betty and Ming more. I think Ming is better than Cold. Betty and SMLZ might actually be relatively close, but Betty is thought of as a higher ceiling player than SMLZ because he's like taking over for Uzi, who retired recently, and he's like stepping into that role now where he's going to be the AD carry for the future.
Right.
RNG, we have New and 705 are the two new top laners.
And
so
New is starting.
One of the new top laners is named New. That is confusing. I forgive you. XLB is the jungler. He's okay. Xiaohu is a pretty good mid laner. They picked up Cryan from E-Star during the offseason, but Xiaohu I think is just a better mid laner overall than Cryan. And then again, we have the bot lane, Betty and Ming. So for New, I don't know anything about this guy. XLB plays some of the champions that I like from a jungler. Xiaohu, very good player overall. He was supposed to be like one of the best up and coming players. So the way that people are talking about Knight, people used to talk that way about Xiaohu, but RNG never realized that potential with Xiaohu plus Uzi because of like injuries and like just random stuff, not performing at Worlds. So he's a very good player. Orianna is getting buffed, so if Xiaohu starts playing Orianna, he's going to dominate people. So that's something to watch out for. On DraftKings, from when I looked at it before, almost every combination of players fits.
Yeah, you can make them fit. It's going to be tight unless you take it. You're within 100 or 200.
Yeah, but I mean,
which I'm fine with.
Yeah, if I think that RNG and DMO are going to win, like I want exposure to a bunch of combinations of those two teams.
Exactly.
And then maybe do some kind of game stack. And if I was going to game stack, like the players that I would want from V5 or OMG are going to be the junglers, AD carries, and mid laners, because tops, supports, and the team slot are too attached to like winning.
Right. That's where I'd prefer DMO, and I think OMG has a better chance at winning one game tonight than V5 does, in my opinion.
Yeah, but if V5 wins one game, I think that one game will be higher than whatever OMG is going to do because they're going to be a high kill score, I think.
Right. No, you're right. Just looking at DraftKings the rankings, and take this way with like positional rankings in terms of DVP.
Yeah.
The positions that OMG gave up the most fantasy points to were the top lane and the mid lane. They were 10th and 9th out of 17 teams. When you look at the jungler, OMG was 4th, which is, top 5. That's really good. Against the AD carry, they were also 4th. Against the support, they were 8th. So it does kind of lend to them, even when they lose, they don't give up a ton of fantasy points, or not overly aggressive. And it also shows maybe they don't try as hard to come back in those games where they're losing. They kind of pack it in or try to scale back and wait for a late game miracle, which didn't happen too often.
Yeah.
So I do agree. I think that the V5 DMO game would be the one I would attack if I'm going to make those contrarian game stack type lineups. I think you're right about that, because OMG just and RNG is the same way. So RNG was 9th against the top lanes. They were 3rd against the jungler, 5th against the mid lane, 6th against the AD carry, and 6th against the support. So you can kind of see if we're going based on the information that we have from the spring split, which does kind of seem to be pretty similar in terms of the patch from what we're playing right now. These would be the two teams that are harder to score fantasy points against than the first game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
So I think that's that, right? Anything else we want to say? So do we want to rank what we think the ownerships will be? I think this one's pretty easy tonight, honestly.
Yeah,
I think it's DMO, RNG, OMG, then Victory 5.
Yep.
And I had a comment and talking about FanDuel. They want a little bit of FanDuel advice. And the only real difference, I mean, of course, the pricing's different, but on FanDuel, you have to include a third team. So for me, if you're including one player from a third team, I could see some reasonable value for Victory 5 if you think that game's going to go 2-1. If you think the other game's going to go 2-1, or that's how you want to bet it, then pick one from OMG. I would probably prefer, like you said, from Victory 5 just because of the upside in fantasy points. There is risk there. Again, I don't play a ton of FanDuel esports because they're always lagging in their scoring. I'm not in love with the format. Although if they brought that having to include one player from 3 teams on Draftkings, I would welcome it because it would get rid of the chop. But FanDuel just does a bad job keeping their scoring accurate. Paying, it takes forever for you to get paid out, and I kind of hate that. I just don't like it. So I am disenchanted with FanDuel lately. That's where I'm at.
I think most people are. Yeah. Most people just don't like them right now.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. But one off. Like for me, I'm still like most of the information translates to FanDuel. Still preferred DMO and RNG, and then you got to make your personal decision. One-offing OMG or Victory 5, and if I'm one-offing them, it's probably going to be something like a support or something, because I want it's going to be like a cold or from OMG, or maybe from Victory 5. You talked about SMLZ, but it's really hard to one-off with an AD carry and get the kind of value. So
yeah,
I think I'd go the support route. That's where I'd go for FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean at that point, when you have these 3-game sets and it's when you have a 2-game slate where you're forced to play 3 teams, you should just ask yourself, why am I playing this slate? Mm-hmm. It's just not a great setup.
Exactly.
Actually, for 2-game slates, they might actually do a different thing, where it's like an MVP, right? Where it's like you pick 5 players and you have to have 2 MVPs.
No, it's basically the same with a captain. I'm pretty sure that they don't change that. I haven't looked because like I said, I just me and FanDuel just lately. But and you're talking about a guy that used to play a lot of FanDuel. I've covered a lot of FanDuel. I've had them a part of thousands, almost 1,000 videos.
Yeah.
I just, they kind of lost me, in all honesty. If it is something like that, I guess different. But from the last time I remember, it's exactly the same. The only difference is they don't charge 1.5 times the salary for the captain spot. So their price stays exactly the same.
Okay.
So I'm always one-offing support or team. Because that's where you'll probably have the least point differential. It's not like supports generally score a ton of points unless you're missing for World Elite or something like that.
Sure.
So support or team is kind of where I'll take all the upside everywhere else, one off it there, and hope the point differential adds up. That's how I treat FanDuel. I think that's everything. Again, thank you all so much. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe to the channel. Check that video description below. Mike's going to have probably, he's saying maybe, the Brazilian League stuff. He's going to have the more in-depth breakdowns. His link to his YouTube channel is down below. Our Twitter feeds are down there. Appreciate all the support. May the fantasy gods be with you all tonight. Good luck. We'll see you tomorrow for the next 2-game slate. We'll get that worked in. And again, a big thanks to Mike for joining us as well as usual.
No problem.
We'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye, folks.
See you.